What's up, everybody? Welcome to Move the Sticks. DJ and Bucky with you. Buck, how you doing, man?
DJ, I'm good. We haven't even talked about it, but I guess this is the DJ Bucky Bowl again. This has been one of those things. Chargers played the Jags this weekend. You come across the country. We hadn't even talked about it.
We have not talked about that. We'll get to the preview. By the way, I think, are you undefeated in our games?
No, I'm not. I know I've lost some, but we're limping into this game after fumbling away one against the Houston Texans. So
yeah. I saw it as the game, and we'll get to it in a minute, but it's the game with the greatest playoff implications in that if I know the Chargers side, but if they win, it's 91% chance they're a playoff team. If they lose, it drops to 58%. It's something crazy like that.
Well, I always use the number. The magic number is 10 because 10 gets you into the postseason. And so when the Jaguars dropped their game last week, that would have put them at 6. And you look at the schedule, you try and pick out 4 games. But now it makes it not a must win, but it narrows your margin for error playing the Chargers this week because you gave away one last week. So no, this is a huge one. And it'd be big because of all the tiebreaker implications at the bottom of the thing. The Jags knocked off the Kansas City Chiefs. And now if they knock off the Chargers, it kind of helps them if you kind of get into a little mix at the end of the season where you can't win or whatever. But now it's a big game. And it'd be interesting because I've said this from a quarterback standpoint that Justin Herbert should be Trevor Lawrence's muse because of the similarities in terms of body types and arm and all those other things. It'd be interesting to see how this plays out.
Yeah, I put in the chat. So the
91%.
Yeah, the Chargers go from now. I guess it's changed a little bit since I last saw it. 91% chance if they win to 61% chance if they lose. The Jags go from a 60% chance to a 24% chance. So a lot on the line there with those two teams that we get a chance to follow around the country squaring off. I'm not going to be there till Saturday. Normally we get in there Friday. The team travels on Friday, Buck, but we've got. I'm sure as you do. You got a playoff game this week. High school.
No, we're all done.
Oh, you're all done? I did not. Yeah, I didn't get that. I did not know you guys got bounced.
One and done.
Were we competitive?
Oh yeah, it was 17-12. I had the ball at a 20-yard line going in, just couldn't make it happen. But what I do, and I finally have to acknowledge, stars matter. The team on the other side, Marquez, had a 3-star athlete, Elijah Staples, who's one of the top 10 athletes in California. And they put those stars on people. Yeah, they put those stars on people for a reason. DJ, he got us real quick. I mean, we might not have been 5 minutes into the game, and I'm like, oh, yep,
there he is.
He's legit.
That's amazing. Well, I'm sorry to hear that it ended that way, but I know the kids got a chance to learn a lot of ball under Bucky this year, and excited to see where Granada Hills is next year. The Christian Eye Patriots have the Ramona Bulldogs on the road on Friday night, so I'm going to stay and watch that, and then take the first thing smoking to Jacksonville on Saturday morning. So. I'll see you out there for that game. Looking forward to it. There's some other good games I want to get to here in a minute, Buck, but I wanted to get your thoughts on this. If I was, we're looking at some potential openings. Obviously, the Giants job is open since I last talked with you. And we have the Tennessee job, which is open. There's going to be more, not a secret there. So not so much maybe the coach that you would say is going to be the right fit for some of these jobs, but I'm looking for what's the league, it's a copycat league, and who's going to be the North Star of the type of coach. We want to find the next this or the next that. What do you think it is?
Man, I still think we're living in this world where everyone wants either the next McVay or the next Shanahan. Not only because you get the system, but you get the adaptability when it comes to Sean McVay. I think Sean McVay more than Shanahan because he's viewed as the young offensive wizard. But now I think people have a tremendous amount of respect for him as a head coach and his ability to morph and adapt to what he's been given, what they're doing. And I'll say this, you're on the front end of the movement when you identified the Rams running their 13 personnel packages, the 3 tight ends on the field, what they've been able to do, how they're able to kind of really make it smash mouth, but sexy. They do it. And I think what you want is someone who can work with the quarterback, but also has a great amount of respect and understanding of complementary football and being able to get the defense the way that he wants to match the offense. All of those things are in play. And I think it's very, very hard for a young coach to do. But I do believe so many owners are going to be chasing that guy that has that ability or seemingly has that ability to do so.
I think there's also going to be something to the collaboration piece of it where you're trying to make sure you get the proper marriage between the GM and the head coach and that whole thing works. I'll give you an example. What Indianapolis has done this year, the success that they've had. You get Ballard, who has always been a traits guy. He wants to bring in the, toolsy, traitsy players who might not always be the most polished players. So who's the right fit with someone like that? An excellent teacher on the coaching side. And Shane Steichen has done that. And Lou Anarumo on the defensive side. Like, they've built a staff of guys that not only know how to scheme, but know how to develop and teach some of these athletes. I look at the Chargers, who I'm around, and you see Harbaugh and Ortiz. Well, there's natural connective tissue there because of Ortiz coming from Baltimore, where he was with his brother, and they've been scouting the same type of players. And you go get Jesse Minter, who had been in Baltimore, Michigan as a defensive coordinator, so you know what style of player fits defensively. Greg Roman, these guys all had history together, and they're all drinking from the same hose here. They all have a similar philosophy. So I'm curious to see how much that plays into it, more so than just we need to find the next Sean McVay or we're trying to find the next Mike McDonald.
Yeah, now that is a great one. The Mike McDonald thing that you're talking about, that is great because what he has created up in Seattle is fantastic. Like, having watched the Seattle Seahawks play up close and personal when they came down to Jacksonville, I can't say that I walked away more impressed, not only with what they do defensively, with that active and aggressive defensive line, how they're playing in the back end. Remember, people were all on Reek Woolen prior to the season. He has turned it around and reemerged as a top flight corner. But what they've been able to do in terms of fully baking out Sam Darnold's game, it's a fun, explosive offense that's quarterback friendly with Clint Kubiak. You want someone who has that ability to have a specialty and an expertise on one side while also acknowledging that they know how to get the other side up and going. Too often when we've seen defensive-minded head coaches is, hey, we got a rough and tumble defense, but a very conservative offense that plays to the strength. But the Seattle Seahawks have a little bit of both. They push the envelope on offense while still maintaining the dominance on defense. You absolutely want someone who is like Mike McDonald, which brings me to a Jesse Minter, because 100%. They have so many similarities and parallels, and they follow each other from Baltimore to Michigan, and all that stuff kind of marries.
Yeah, and I think about, even Sam Darnold was a USC quarterback. He's married up with McDonald. You get Jackson Dart, began his career at USC. They kind of have a similar profile. I think they need to dial Dart back as a runner a little bit. Sam's a good athlete. Sam could run more than he does, but he knows he can't. He's got to protect himself. Dart's a better athlete, but he's got to reel that in a little bit. But in terms of some of the strengths, the moxie, the playmaking ability, that, Jackson Dart, there is some similarities there. And I think marrying him up with a defensive-minded coach who would allow you to keep some continuity with the offensive staff, whether it's Mike Kafka, whoever else you want, but just to have somebody else there. The Chargers did it with Shane Day as the quarterback coach who survived from the previous coaching staff. So even as they brought in a whole new head coach and coordinators, he had that same comfortable voice that had been with Herbert previously.
The first thing that everyone asks is, well, who's coming with you? Who is going to be your offensive and defensive coordinators? If you're coming over and we're talking about offense, if you're not the offensive play caller, how are we going to build around the quarterback and sustain it after the hot coordinator goes away? And it's going to be interesting who you compare with whom. And as we talk about, like, that synergy that you have to have amongst the staff when you're trying to get this team up and going, it's a lot of pressure on you. And I understand why the hiring skills tend to tip towards the offensive guys, because we talked about continuity and stability. But man, there are some really good head coaches that are going to come from the defense side of the ball, and you hope they get a fair shake when it comes to building a team. The other part, DJ, so for the Giants in particular, when you've gone novice coaches, first-time head coaches for so long, you tend to want to go different than the way that you faltered previously. So now you're going to have some, I'll just say, seasoned coaches, guys that it won't be their first time around, like your Mike McCarthy's. People have thrown out Steve Spagnuolo. Even the name Antonio Pierce has been bandied about. If you were looking to hire someone who's been a head coach previously, what would you look for? What would be the traits that you're looking for to give someone another opportunity at the head job?
Yeah, I think you just got to get them in the room and see, what they've learned and how they've grown through the experience. We've seen guys have that success on the next go round. So I think that's tough to describe, but you kind of just got to get him in there and see what that looks like. To me, Vance Joseph and Brian Flores would be interesting guys to bring in and look at the success that they've had before and after their head coaching stints and just figure out what you learned, going through that process. And that's going to be weighed against, if I was going to ask you, because I'm trying to find the profiles, and you talked about, the next Mike McDonald is Jesse Minter. That's not even debatable. They're the same guy. If I was going to ask you, and I was going to ask you this, and I wanted to look it up, but Ben Johnson, the success he's had in Chicago, and I'm like, well, that's Clint Kubiak. Like, if you're trying to find that hot coordinator who's doing some cool stuff and who is empowered as the play caller, because a lot of these other offenses, you look at it and, well, the head coach is calling the plays, so the coordinator is somewhat neutered. So who are the good teams, the teams that are having great years with a coordinator with autonomy? Like, that's one of them for sure would be Clint Kubiak.
Yeah, look, Clint Kubiak is going to have a great opportunity. And let's be real. It helps that he has a steady resource. When you talk about his dad, who has been a head coach before, you think about how advantageous it was for Kyle Shanahan to have a dad who's been a Super Bowl winner to do it. Clint Kubiak has that. He's been around it at a high level. He's had success and having success right now. We talk about the reclamation project that Sam Darnold is and how he's continued to sustain it after we saw it initially pop for him in Minnesota. You love that. And then it's about, can you take a Kubiak, pair him with an older or an experienced defensive coordinator who can kind of be the assistant head coach, defense, handle that side of the ball while he focuses on the offense and then managing the overall team? That's typically been the blueprint and the formula that works. People talk about, there's not a lot of sexy names. You're going to have to be some retreads. I think if you dig deep enough, you can find some viable candidates that can take some of these jobs and go to the next level. And I think some of these coaching candidates, first thing you have to do is you got to look at the quarterback situation and figure out, do I want to be married to this young quarterback that might be in place? So when we talk about Tennessee, talk about the New York Giants, those situations, how great do I feel about having a young quarterback that I can get the pop in his second year, much like Mike Vrabel has been able to get the best out of Drake May in his second season in the league.
Yeah, no, the other thing is, like, do we say, like, Josh McDaniels is here? Is there any chance at all that he gets another look at it? I mean, I don't know that we see that happen, but man, he's done an unbelievable job there. I was looking at some of these defensive totals here. You know who has the number 2 defense in the league? Cleveland Browns, Jim Schwartz. Head coaching experience. I mean, he is a great defensive coordinator, Super Bowl winning coordinator. And for whatever the issues the Browns have had, it has not been their defense. No,
it certainly hasn't been their defense. And it's unfortunate for the Browns that they've just been atrocious on offense. I mean, there's no other way to say it. Like, if they just had a smattering of an offense to go with that defense, they would be able to win games and be in the conversation. They're not dead. Schwartz has done a good job in the past. What he did with Detroit, I think people have to remember, he stepped in after they were 0-16, got them up to run it. And remember, he had Detroit at a point where we were talking about Matthew Stafford being an MVP candidate when he was a younger version of the star quarterback that we're seeing now. Look, not a bad option. There can be some options available, but to me, I think ownership has to be bold in terms of evaluating the player for what the situation is and what it needs, not based on the previous resume. Which coach fits what we currently need, and he can help us get over the top, regardless of what the record is.
Yeah, put it in there. Second defense, 31st in offense. So maybe the most lopsided team in the NFL is the Cleveland Browns. All right, Buck, I've been looking forward to this maybe more than any other game throughout the whole season. These teams have been on a collision course. We're going to get to see this matchup twice. I cannot wait to see how this thing goes down. But I want to get your thoughts on it. I'll give you mine, but just your big picture thoughts. Rams, Seahawks.
Two teams that are built similarly. When you think about the way these teams go about their business and how they really love the athletes that have like the football character that you want, smart, fast, physical, they get after it. They both are built in terms of like from front to back. When I look at the defensive fronts of both of these teams, I think about the Seattle Seahawks and the athletes they have, Byron Murphy going alongside Leonard Williams and DeMarcus Lawrence and those other guys. And then you think about Kobe Young and Jared Verse and the other people that the Rams have up front, man, they can get after it. But then on the perimeter and how they go about it, like offensively, explosive playmakers on the outside, great skilled route runners, quarterbacks that have an understanding of timing, rhythm, the anticipation and accuracy. It's almost like these teams are mere reflections of one another playing in a high stakes contest. I would never spend money to go to an NFL game, but this one, I think you could talk me into ponying up a little money to sit there on the 50-yard line to watch two teams square off.
Yeah, I think they play, not only physical defenses with defensive lines are very gifted and talented. And I actually like the secondary better on the Seattle side of things. I think that might be where their edge is in this game. But I was thinking about it, and I was going through and I was watching all the Seattle stuff, and I was watching how physical and how hard they play. And I'm watching the Rams, and I'm thinking back to the team that won the Super Bowl last year in the Philadelphia Eagles. And I thought, not everybody plays this hard. You think it should be the way it is. Everybody's just kind of busting it around the league. But I started thinking about, man, maybe the secret sauce with defensive football right now is the depth of your front. Like, in other words, hey, no governor. I talk to Harbaugh every week and got to know him pretty well the last couple of years. And one line that he constantly uses when you talk to him is like, football is not a marathon. I hate that line. This is a series of sprints. Every play is a sprint. Every game is a sprint. Every season is a sprint. And it starts with the first 3 steps on every play. Like, there's an urgency you have to play with. Well, it's a heck of a lot easier to play that fast and that hard when you know you got 4 more defensive linemen. They're going to sub you guys out before too long.
And look, it's easy to play that way. Not only a player feeling like I can empty the bucket knowing that I can get a rest, but it's also easy for a coach to demand that you're going to play that hard when I have someone that can easily replace the person that is in front of someone that is on the bench. We talk about playing hard and the urgency that you have to have. DJ, to me, that's the thing that separates the great teams from the ones that are aspiring to go from good to great. They play at a level that you can feel their presence on the field. You can feel the urgency that they're playing with. Sometimes we'll talk about like that championship maturity that a team must display when they're really a title contender. They know when to flip the switch, when the game is hanging in the balance, and when they need to go make a play. And that play is often made on a hustle play. I can't say enough about effort, energy, physicality, how those things still apply, whether we're talking about the National Football League all the way down to high school youth ball. Getting a team to play hard, particularly on defense, to me, that's the secret sauce. Can you run to the ball with bad intentions and knock the ball out when you have a chance?
Both these teams are going to mix tight ends out there. They're going to try and get you in single high look so they can go play action, take their shots. They both will move the quarterback, so you're not going to get comfortable where the launch point is. To me, I think the key to this game is going to be who can play a man down in the box and still stop the run. And that, again, goes to having the depth to keep those guys fresh to destruct blocks. But I think if you have to bring that man down and you got to play single high, and I like Seattle secondary better than I like the Rams secondary, but both those, that's going to have a tough time covering those dudes on the outside if that's the case.
Well, I mean, look, it's going to be tough. I'm going to just tell you, man, having watched JSN, his game has gone to another level. And the overall speed factor that the Seattle Seahawks have on offense, from the tight ends, Elijah Rowe and others, to what they've been able to bring in at the outside opposite JSN. Man, they're going to push it down the field. They're going to challenge you to be able to get to it. Clint Kubiak's going to borrow some of those old concepts that his dad used to befuddle defensive coordinators with, and you got to be on your P's and Q's. And then the Rams are a little different, right? Because they're not the explosive team looking for the home run shots, but man, they will script up some things for Devontae Adams and Puka Nacua to get open on. They will challenge you with the numbers with their 13 personnel package where you fall asleep at the wheel because you focused on the run, and then you look out the back door, Cody Parkinson is putting one in the paint on you. This is one where you're not only assessing the talent, but man, you're looking at the tactics. And so that's why I'm saying this is a football lover's dream.
Yeah, Gavin put in the chat about the Nick Eamon-Wari game. He's been playing well. And, I was watching their stuff, and it wasn't just him in terms of taking on blocks, but Okada and the secondary. Buck, I just wrote down in all caps, like attacks pullers. When you see that, I don't know why that fires me up so much, but when you see secondary guys and they've got a puller coming to them, and the rules are the rules now, you can't go low on them. It used to be back when you were playing, like, you just cut them down. Cut them down like a tree. But I wrote down on my paper when I was watching that, I said, you know what? You really have 3 choices when you're a little guy facing a puller. You can avoid, you can absorb, or you can annihilate. And like they play big, man. They go attack the pullers, and like that just to me speaks to the overall aggression and physicality that they're playing with in Seattle.
I mean, look, man, when you're coming downhill, we always talk about playing downhill, playing fast, getting out your shoes, like not making it complicated. That's one of the things that you see from them. There's no hesitation. They are on go. And when I mean go, they're on the beginning of the G. When it was time to come downhill, like they are playing. And, it's funny because we talked about Jesse Minter and Mike McDonald and those guys coming from Baltimore, and you know it because you lived it. DJ, I've always felt like when you see those teams with those coaches that come from Baltimore, and there was a distinct style that they played with. And that style wasn't necessarily schematically, but just you could feel the aggressiveness. That's the sense that I feel when I watch and I'm on the field with the Seattle Seahawks. You feel their presence. And if you don't match it or exceed their physicality, they will beat you up. I mean, they will beat you up from beginning to end.
Yeah, no question. There are a couple more big games here. I just want to give me one thought, and I'll follow up here. Chiefs, Broncos, Lions, Eagles, Bucks. I mean, that's the three big games when you combine that with Seahawks, Rams.
I'll talk about both of them. For the Broncos, to me, this is the litmus test in terms of, okay, we can talk about you being a fringe contender, but now you need to do it, because if you can do it, then you can put the stake in the vampire's heart when it comes to the Kansas City Chiefs. You can knock them out. You can put it in a very, very precarious situation in terms of them being able to get into the postseason. But to do that, Bo Nix and company need to play better on offense. The Detroit Lions, Philadelphia Eagles game is interesting because listening to Jalen Hurts talk about, look, this is a team that has been good. It is kind of personal for them. They're going to be ready. They're going to have a high level of energy when they face us. I look at it at Dan Campbell being what I think a great head coach is, man, being able to take the play card when I need it. Hey, man, I got this. We'll figure this out. I don't like what I'm seeing. I'm going to make a change and I'm going to make it right, and for them to make it right. So I'm looking forward to the Lions trying to make this a very physical affair against the Eagles. And I want to see the Eagles show that championship heart, because this is when you can send a message to the rest of the league. Yeah, I know y'all think y'all are closing on the defending champs. There's difference. There's levels to this when it comes to being a champ.
I feel like some of these teams that play the Eagles, man, they put so much into it. I know the Rams did, and then they kind of blew it late. And I think there was a carryover off of that game. And it feels like the Lions are doing the same thing here. So they got to just be a little careful. You're not too amped up on this thing. So we'll see if the poise and the veteran presence of that Eagles group is able to handle that versus, they're going to come out firing on the Detroit side of things. I still like the Eagles there. And then when it comes to the Chiefs and the Broncos, the Chiefs, where they are offensively right now, in a pretty good spot. My thing is, they're going to get heated up. They're going to get heated up off the edges from this Denver Broncos defense. And if Kansas City doesn't turn the ball over, if they take some sacks, it's fine. If they don't turn the ball over, I don't know that Denver's offense has enough. So you just can't give them anything. I used the line the other day in a Charger game. I was like, hey, man, you got to keep some of these offenses on the naughty list. Like, don't give them anything. Don't give them short fields, no presents, no gifts. If you make Denver drive the length of the field against Kansas City's defense, I don't think they're going to score a ton of points, man.
No, DJ, and I think everyone has to come to that realization. We're almost at the point where we start beginning to lean into what I call the championship blueprint. And some of that is the way that we play defense, eliminate the explosives, make teams drive the length of the field. We don't think their offense is explosive enough to be able to muster enough drives where they can put points up. And when I mean points up, 7s, not 3s. And if you're a team like the Kansas City Chiefs, who has enough firepower to be able to get to that magic number 24, yeah, I think it can be a very, very difficult game for the Denver Broncos. And if the Kansas City Chiefs win that, then what it does is sends a message to the rest of the league. Be careful. We still got it. We still can come. We still can do all those things. The boogeyman lives again when it comes to Pat Mahomes.
Yep, that's going to be a great trio of games, man. I can't wait to recap it next week. We appreciate you guys hanging with us. We'll see you next time right here on Move the Sticks.